Hey, fifth grade, happy Wednesday. It's time for us to read together, so go ahead and grab your As Brave as You book. Open up to page 87. Today we're going to read page 87 to page 97, and then you're going to keep up your good work that you've already been doing with answering those comprehension questions. Right now, about half of my friends are able to answer those questions on the Google Classroom. If you can't, based on the fact that you're sharing a computer with a sibling, you just aren't able to type on your phone or on your tablet or whatever, that's fine. You can answer the comprehension questions on a piece of lined paper or in the packet from Miss LaRue if you got that. But I do just want a Jupiter message or maybe a text from your parents' phone, just anything to let me know that you understand what the work is, that you're doing it, and that you're with me for this week. And as a reminder, we will have a vocab quiz on... Jamil, you got this, man. Friday. Exactly. All right, so vocab quiz will be on Friday, and it will be one that you'll be able to do on your phone. It's going to be multiple choice on a Google form, so you won't need to be typing any answers or anything like that. We are going to start in the middle of page 87 where it says, "Let me tell y'all about this boy." This is Grandpa talking to us, okay? "Let me tell y'all about this boy," Grandpa began. "Gary Daniels down the road there, who used to always pick on the younger kids after school. He was big for a child. Hell, he was big for a grown-up." Grandpa took a swig from his glass, his face twisting up as he swallowed. "Anyway, this boy Gary, everybody called him Cake. He came up to your daddy one time. I think Ernest was in the 3rd grade at the time, and Wood was in the 6th. And I think that Cake was in the 8th or the 9th, but he looked like he was old enough to sign up for the military. Cake came up to Ernest and started patting his pockets, aiming to take whatever Ernest had, which wasn't much because we ain't have much to give him. Now this here is what Ernest told me. He said Wood came out of nowhere and whopped Cake in the back of the head with a book as hard as he could. "Oh man," Ernie said, leaning forward. "Probably knocked him slam out," Jeannie added, hyped. "Knock him out? Cake was huge!" Grandpa's voice went all high. "All that did was tick him off. Wood came home with the blackest eye I've ever seen, and a busted lip. And he was limping. Dang! Uncle Wood should have learned how to block." Ernie threw up his hands and demonstrated a few of his favorite karate blocks, clearly forgetting for a moment that Grandpa couldn't see. "What about Dad?" Jeannie asked. Grandpa picked up his glass and swirled the liquid around. "Not a scratch. And you know what Wood said? He said, 'I'd rather Cake beat on me than on my little brother.'" Jeannie watched Grandpa sip his drink again, and he thought about how proud Grandpa seemed to be of Dad and Uncle Wood, which also made Jeannie think of how unproud Dad seemed to be of Grandpa earlier. "Exactly," Ernie said, puffed up. Except ain't nobody gonna beat on either one of us." He slapped Jeannie lightly on the arm and then cracked his knuckles. Jeannie felt a smile coming on account of Ernie's words, but he held it in and asked instead, "So nothing ever happened to Cake?" Thunder boomed and Grandpa braced himself on the edge of the table. It was only for a second, but Jeannie caught him. "Oh, something happened all right," Grandpa said, trying to regain his calm. "See, they all grew up, and Wood joined the Army. And one day, when your daddy was in high school and Wood was home after basic training, they bumped into Cake at the fair. They had a few words, 'cause, see, Wood could never let things go. He got that from me. So when he saw Cake, they said whatever they said, and then Wood gave him the blues." "Beat him down?" Ernie asked. "Blew his doggone candles out." Grandpa cheesed real hard and reached out for Ernie's hand. "That's what I'm talking about," Ernie said, slapping Grandpa's hand. At that, Grandma turned all the knobs on the stove until they clicked, turning the flames off. "Okay, that's enough heathen talk. Dinner's ready." She pulled up a stack of plates from the cabinet, then loaded each with baked chicken, mashed potatoes, and greens. But as soon as she'd set them on the table and taken her seat, Boom! And the house went dark. Grandma got right back up, grabbed a candle, lit it, and put it in the middle of the table. No big deal. Jeannie couldn't remember thunder being that loud in Brooklyn. He also didn't really remember the electricity ever going out either. But Grandma's response made it seem like she was used to it. She was already sitting back down and digging into the food. Dang, country life. But after a few bites, Grandpop set his fork on the edge of his plate. You boys want to hear something? Lord, Grandma groaned. No, not another story, something else. Sure, Ernie said, nibbling on the knobby part of a chicken leg. Sure, Pete repeated. Sweetheart, Grandpop said charmingly. Jeannie knew Grandpop was batting his lashes behind his sunglasses. Grandma shook her head and relented. Well, sure. Well, since you insist. Grandpop lickety-split dug into his pocket, and the first thing Jeannie thought was that Grandpop was going to whip out his gun. He definitely didn't want to hear that. He had already heard the thunder and didn't know why Grandpop would do this during a dark dinner. But Jeannie also didn't know why Grandpop did a lot of things, like carry one in the first place. Turns out Grandpop was reaching for a harmonica. He held it up, the silver glinting in the flicker of the flame. You know how to play the harmonica? Jeannie asked, instantly intrigued. Grandpop tapped it on the table a few times before bringing it up to his mouth. I dibble and dabble, he said. Then he pressed the metallic bar to his lips and started blowing and sucking, moving the harmonica back and forth like a cartoon character, eating corn on the cob. The sound was like ghost music, especially since they were in the middle of a thunderstorm in a room lit only by a candle. Grandpop played and played, his cheeks inflating and deflating, his head rocking side to side, the sound sometimes really, really quiet and other times piercingly loud. There was one part where Grandpop even made it sound like a train choo-chooing, a ghost train. Spooky, but cool, very cool, Jeannie thought. He completely forgot about eating. Ernie, too. Grandpop didn't stop until he was sweating and totally out of breath. Grandma leaned over and rubbed his back as he tried to get his wind back. Jeannie and Ernie clapped like they had just got a free concert or something. Grandpop just nodded. It was like he had blown out all of his words. Chapter 6. After Jeannie and Ernie remembered to start eating again and finished with what they found found out was Grandma's specialty dessert, banana pudding, there was nothing really left to do because, 1, the storm. It was raining cats and dogs, more like bears and elephants. And 2, the entire house was dark. So they went upstairs, Grandma leading the way, holding the candle in one hand. After she took 2 steps, maybe 3, into Jeannie's and Ernie's room, crunch. What was that? She set the candle on the blue dresser and started feeling around for a flashlight in the top drawer. She clicked it on, the bright white light streaming across the room for a second before she aimed it on the floor. What in the world is this doing down here? She asked, bending down. It was the red truck. She picked it up, but one of the wheels stayed on the floor, in pieces, cracked like hard candy, cracked apparently like Grandma's heart. Does anybody remember who made the red toy car? Yes, Mason? Uncle Wood did. And so Dad already said that those models are like Grandma's special things, to be careful with them. And it looks like Jeannie left it on the floor. Oh, it's really sad, right? Yeah. Oh no, she cried. Oh no, she repeated, her voice instantly dipping into sadness. Jeannie thought about whether or not this is one of those truths he should keep to himself. But he couldn't. Grandma, I left it there, he started to explain. Then, realizing that that wasn't enough an explanation, he decided to explain more. left it there when Ma told us to put the suitcase in the car. And I thought that we would come back up to the room, but then you said I couldn't go in and out. So I stayed out, and I didn't know it was going to rain and that the lights would go out, because the lights never go out in Brooklyn. Right, Ernie? And I just didn't know that they would go out here. If I knew all that stuff was going to happen, I wouldn't have left it there. It was an accident. I swear it was, Grandma, and I'm so sorry. Jeannie's voice became beggy. He got down onto one knee to pick up the pieces of the wheel, dropping the larger half in his palm and pinching at the smaller piece with his fingers. And just when he had clenched it, the tiny bit of plastic slipped from his grip, hit the floor, and bounced and rolled like a pebble, before, in what seemed like slow motion, falling through a crack. Jeannie immediately put his face to the floor, peering desperately between the wooden slats into the darkness downstairs. Then, with his heart in his throat, he looked up at Grandma. Her hand was over her mouth. Grandma, I'm so... Shh, Grandma interrupted, holding her hand out, the truck in her palm on its side. Jeannie dropped the bigger piece of the wheel beside it. It's fine, she forced between teeth. Accidents happen. She set the three-wheeled model back on the dresser where it belonged and arranged the wheel chip next to it. She didn't say anything more. She didn't have to. Jeannie could feel her sadness. You boys, sleep tight, Grandma said softly. Setting the flashlight on the dresser next to the truck, she took the candle, gave Ernie a hug, and kissed Jeannie on the forehead, and headed down the stairs. She still smelled like soap and chicken, and now disappointment as well. Jeannie changed into his basketball shorts as the rain continued to come down hard. He sat on his bed with his notebook and imagined himself trapped in a staticky TV, a place where you couldn't see or hear or understand anything. Number 442. Why am I so stupid? Why did he have to leave the truck on the floor? Why? His first day at Grandma and Grandpa's house, and he had already messed up. The first day! He just couldn't believe it. He hated making mistakes. All he could think about was how he had to make it right. He had to fix it. But how? Don't worry about it, Jeannie. It was an accident, Ernie said, pulling his shirt over his head. Jeannie wondered how Ernie always knew when he was beating himself up. An accident times 2. Accidents, Jeannie emphasized. I just feel so bad. Yeah, but that ain't gonna fix it, Ernie said, straight. You know that. You might as well not even worry about it right now. Jeannie nodded, shook his head, and then nodded again, deciding he would figure it out, but not tonight. He needed a fresh mind to even begin to think about what to do with the truck. Not a mind full of his parents maybe divorcing, and bottle caps and fishing hooks, and fly electrocutions and thunderstorms, and lights out and harmonicas, and questions that he still needed to write down about guns and old blind men's waistbands, and the flashlight was giving off just enough light for him to do so. So, number 443. Why would a blind man have a gun? That's where we're going to pause for today. We'll pick up right there tomorrow after you've answered any of the comprehension questions you can do. Now that we're on chapter 6, you should be able to answer all of the chapter 5 questions. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 questions all finished. Then go on over to our vocab video. You're going to like what our activity is today. And remember that we will have a quiz on our vocabulary words on Friday. Thanks for reading with me, guys. I'll see you in a little bit.